I'm going to go ahead and switch my screen here, and you can see that this is what we're going to be working on. We did a lot of this setup last time, and I figured I would just do a part 2 on it. We may do a part 3. I mean, if we're going to finish it, we would need to do a part 3. So you can let me know if you're interested in that, or if you'd rather code something else out. But this is what we're going to be working on today, and we're going to work on this mobile design right here and try to kind of finalize some of that. We did a lot of setup last time, but that's the case with these projects. Obviously, with a single page like this, I don't know that we needed to do all that setup, but I mean, that's how I would actually do a real site, is kind of think through all the things and set stuff up. So I figured it made sense to do the same here. I will say, as you guys are watching, and we're about to get started here, if live streaming is not your thing, that's totally fine. I do have a couple other projects coming up on the channel soon. And you can see here, we got this world clock where you can actually set different time zones, and you got world clock options, just kind of showing even the time of the day. Now these all are the 30th on the PM. So we're not late enough yet to see this switch to AM for somebody, or or switch dates, but this is one of the things we're working on. So I think this comes out Tuesday. And then this one I'm excited about. This is this Google Events Calendar event page. I'd done a poll a couple weeks back about what project to build out next, and this is one I needed to do for something else. And you can see here you've got events. You can actually pull in more events if you want to, and it's actually pulling live from calendar data. And you can see it expands out here on anything that has details. Those that don't have that. You actually have the day of the week, the time, and then some of these, like let's see, right here it just says a date because it's an all-day event. And then all these colors are randomly generated, and you can, again, kind of decide how many events you want to show. And all this is pulling from live Google Calendar data, and we're going to set all this up. I think this isn't this next week, but the week after that. So anyhow, both of these I think are a lot of fun. Oh, and this one also has a dark mode. So you can see that if I switch my machine to dark mode, everything looks great in dark mode as well. And we're going to set this all up with Tailwind, which I haven't done, I don't think, on the channel before, but it's a utility first framework. So if live streaming is not your thing, these two things are coming up on the channel, and I've got a couple other things like VS Code extension, video, and a couple other things that I've been working on. Federico, yeah, I think you all do speak English. That's, not being American gives you a big leg up there, because I feel like most Americans only know one language. So I'm impressed that you're so well versed in English, Spanish, and probably something else too. And in part 3, of course, we can do that if you want. Yeah, the world clock was a lot of fun to build out over here. So there's ways to do this with set timeout, but I set all this up with an API that really you should be using for this kind of stuff called request animation frame. And you can see how it kind of just slowly moves around. You could actually make it kind of tick second by second too. And the other thing I forgot to mention about this, if we're going to build all of this out, the SVGs, these are all SVGs. We're going to build out the SVGs totally from scratch. Every line is from scratch. All of these are from scratch. The dots around the side, all that is just going to be fully built out SVG. And like I said, I think it goes live on Tuesday for that. All right, well, enough yapping about what we might do. Let's go ahead and jump in. So here's what we're working on. And here is the Figma. I don't actually have the real Figma file. I just took the images and dropped them on a Figma file just to kind of keep them all organized so we can reference this as we want to. And then last time, you see over this way, this is what we got going so far. So I haven't actually gone through and looked at every single thing we did last time. And so it might take a little bit just to kind of get our minds around exactly what we were doing. But I think we got most of that done, looks like, on a mobile view. And if I reference this over here again, this is what we were working on, is kind of this base bottom section here. Oh, nice. Born in the US. Cool. All right. Now, there is one thing I'm noticing this time looking at it. There's this little shadow down here that we don't have, so we need to add that. And then I think let's go ahead and just move to this image one next and get this slider working. And then lastly, we'll worry about, let's see, should we worry about the cart next? I think maybe lastly we'll do the cart next, and then we'll do this header area. I think at most we will get the mobile done, but that probably is a little ambitious. I don't have as much time today as normal, although I've said that before and I just keep going, so that is the problem. Okay, let me open this up and get this going on a mobile view. We'll set this at, I think 375 is what the design is at. And let's zoom in a bit here. And how about like that? Okay, so we've got that mostly set. what I'm going to do is come back in here, and you see there's this little shadow. So let's go ahead and work on that next. And I don't remember what this is called, so we're going to have to check it out. Checkout button. All right, so I'm going to come over here and search for that. Well, that's not going to work. Let's see, like that. Okay, so I've actually added some utility classes. It looks like rounded, accent pale, gap 1. I guess that would be for the middle section, background accent. Okay, so let's look at, do I have anything already on the checkout button? Yeah. Okay, so let's go ahead and add a box shadow here. Box shadow, and we'll do, let's see, it doesn't look like it's that far down. So let's actually do like, I don't know, or that far over. So let's do 0 pixels, and then like, maybe let's do 10 pixels down. I think there's a lot of blur though. It's like 30 pixels of blur. And then we'll do a var of accent, probably. Accent pale, maybe. Let's see what that does. All right, not much of anything. Let's move this down just to make sure we're actually getting something show up there. Okay, we are. All right, so there it is. I don't actually have dimensions for this. I'm just going to guess. And maybe I'll change this to accent and see if that brightens it up a bit. Yeah, too much, but that's the idea. Maybe I'm going to come up here. We set up all these last time basically on these these CSS variables. And so that gives us some flexibility here. So let's go ahead and do this. I'm going to copy this down, and we'll do like semi-transparent, something like that, which I know is kind of long, but I don't know. I found more and more I'd rather go with stuff that I can find easily later rather than stuff that I don't know what it is, and I have to go spend forever searching stuff. So let's go back in here. Okay, switch this out. All right, so that's a little bit better. Let's go back to the 20, make it really big. And actually, let's bring this in a little bit. It looked like it was maybe even just kind of inside a touch, right? That would be right, inside like that. No, that goes outside. So maybe, oh, this is left and right. Oh, so let's leave it like that. I think we're going to be good with that. 25. All right, so we've got most of that good. These buttons are accessible to us because they're actually in buttons, if I remember correctly. All that's good. So let's go ahead, and we've also got the footer. I think next I'm just going to get these images up, and they look mostly square. Is that square? Let's figure this out. 450, so not quite. All right, let's go ahead. Maybe we've got them set out over here. Thumbnail. I'm guessing these are the thumbnails. Okay, so we can just drop those in. So thumbnail 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, and then it looks like, I'm guessing you can slide these over. Sliding them and making them truly sliding is going to be a little bit of a challenge if we want them to be infinitely rotatable. So we can either just click and it'll go to the next image just without any transition. We could click and make it slide, and then when we get to the final one, just remove this final moving button. Let's see, what is the desktop one like? The desktop one you click, so we don't have to worry about that either way. So I think right now let's just make it click and move to the next one, and we can add a transition pretty easily. So what I'm going to want is some kind of container here that stays on the page and has flex children off of it. So like here, here, here. Let me see, actually, maybe I can, let's duplicate this, and I'm going to crop this. I'm trying to remember what the keyboard shortcut is. Like this. Oh. And let's see, can I move this? Crop. How about right there? Okay. And then what I'm going to do is bring this in here. So the idea would be we're going to stack them out like this. Obviously, these will be different images, and these will all be hidden off screen. So we need this thing to be position relative. These will all be position, well, no, let's see. Let's not do it quite like that. So yeah, we will have a position relative. That will be this thing right here, and we'll translate it to start with. It'll be translated normal, 0%. And then this thing right here will be a div that will have all these children basically attached to it. So let me move these up so you can kind of see what we're going to do. And then what we're going to do is like this. When they click that little arrow, we're actually going to drag the div this thing over this way, and all the children will just follow. And as long as all the children are set to cover and full height and width, they should drag along with the parent just fine. So that's what we're going to do, if that helps make, hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. Looks like these are the same spacing there, so that should be pretty easy. And I'm thinking they gave me those SVGs, let's see, next, I'm guessing, and minus maybe. So, all right, let's go ahead and get the HTML up and running. Let's close that sidebar, and this will be up top here. Let's see, product was this section, so let's call this images, or how about like slider, maybe something like that. So inside this slider, let's call this the slider container. And we will have other items below this. So like this is where we'd have, let's see, like image small for the desktop. We'll have 4 of those down that way. And then inside here, we're going to have, let's do, so this is the div I want. So I'm going to call this div slider, I think. So slider like that. And then I guess this probably should be a section. This should probably be a section too, just semantically. And inside here is where we're going to have our images. And these will be children of the slider. So let's see, images, and then product thumbnail 1. And then let's call this like shoes, something like that. And let's just copy this down. And let's change these one after the other. So we've got 2, 3, 4. When I save, they all stack like that. So the first thing we're going to do here is add flex. And then they should stack out that way, which is good. And then the next thing I want to do is, see, yeah, they overflow here. So we actually want to set an overflow on this slider container here. So let's go ahead and grab this and jump down here. We've done the checkout section. Because this comes first, though, I'm going to actually come up here. We're going to call this slider section. Got our slider container. And here we're going to say overflow hidden. And that should hide all of those that go past. So yeah. All right, next I want to take my slider, which is the div. We're going to say width 100% and height 100%. And this should go basically the full height and width of the parent container. And if I come in here, see, we've got our image here. Slider takes up the whole section. So then what I want is let's put something on each of these children. So we're going to come into here, and first we'll say class slide, and then I'll say slide, and let's see, text, say 1, 2, 3, 4. That's just a little extension called text pasty, I think, and you can quickly add numbers like that. So I've got a slide here. So let's come over back to our CSS, and we'll say slide, and this should be the same like this. So we want it to take up the full height and width of the parent. And let's see, then, let's see, should I stack these out at all? I don't think so. Let's come in here. So I'm trying to remember. So these should be, I need object fit on these, I think. Object fit, cover. All right, that's not happening. Let's see. This parent, oh, you know what? I think I need, because they're flex children, if I say flex 1, 100, something like that, and this, let's set this to 100% view, or view width. Does that stretch it out? All right, what am I doing wrong here? It should not be that difficult to get these things to be larger. They're only 167, but I should be able to stretch them the full height and width. I guess the height from the slider is taking, that's not what I need here. Do I need to set, oh, come on, this is not that difficult, 100%. Okay, so I'm doing something obviously wrong. What am I doing wrong that I'm just not seeing? Product 1, product 2. Let's maybe change these to get rid of the thumbnail. And for now, we'll at least just bring in the big sizes. Maybe that's all it was supposed to be, but they still should take up the full height. I don't know. All right, well, we got it working, so if you see what I did there, let me know. Twin concepts design 100%, as in I need to set it to 100%. I thought I did. Maybe I didn't. Flex 1. That should all stack up like that. I don't know. All right, so either way, we got those there for now. Let's go ahead and inside this, let's see, not the slider, because that moves to the left. This needs to be position relative. Do we have a class for that? No. Okay. So position relative. Then let's go ahead and get those buttons in place. So I'm going to come inside here, and we're going to have these as buttons semantically, just so that people can navigate to them with a keyboard. And we're going to say class here of absolute. Well, let's just call them button, and then button. Let's see, move. Let's just call them button, and then button left. And then we can stack these like this because it's not like they have to be over the image. We're not popping up a modal. So yeah, I think that should work. Both of these here. Let's come in here. We've got our next. So let's copy that out. In fact, let me go ahead and put this, let's see, minus, I'm guessing. No, minus was plus previous. There we go. And then let's do next. Close the sidebar. Got both of those down. Come into here. Let's see, I don't need that. Oh man, I don't remember. Did I do next first? Container needs to be 100%. Okay, I thought I did that and it didn't work. It's not anything complex. It should be pretty easy, whatever it is, but I'm just messing it up right now, whatever I'm doing. Okay, let's come back over here and let's grab both of those buttons. So let's come right in here and we'll say button. And then here we're going to say, see, position of absolute. And then top 50%. And that should pull them down and they make little X's. Let's see, background color. We want our var of probably the alt. No, that's dark. It's probably one I haven't looked in this in a week. I don't remember what these are. Let's see. I think it was just background, right? Whatever the white one was. Yeah, there we go. Okay. And then let's do a height on these, a fixed height of like 24 pixels, something like that. And then we'll do a width too. And then border will be 50%. Oops, border radius will be 50%. That gets us that circle. And this probably needs to be bigger. See, don't we have variables for this? Var, font size, sizer. Let's try that, sizer 3. Yeah, that'll work. Okay, then we'll do a display grid and place item center to get those in the center. All right, cool. Now, if it is the left one, let's see, I also need to translate these. To translate, I guess just Y, or transform. Transform, translate Y. I'll do negative 50%, and that should bring them up. Now, I'm going to have to set transform on, no, I won't. I was going to say I'm going to have to set the transform on the individual buttons here, but I won't. I'm just going to use the left and right properties. So here I'm going to say left, and we'll do var of our spacer 3, sizer 3. I think I did that last time too. I think maybe I usually call these spacers when I build out sites, and maybe that's the problem. All right, let's get these both set up, and then we can adjust them. So right, and this will be right. Okay, so that's a little bit too big. So let's do 2 and 2. It's whatever my sizer is here. Oh, you know what? I forgot I made the ones really large. So let's go 4. 5. What did I set these as? What's the sizer? Okay, so that's the most. So it is 1. Okay. It was the font size, I think, that I set that way. Okay, so that should be the same down there, and it is. Now, the problem with these arrows is even though they're technically in the middle, because the center here is in the middle and the SVG is kind of that way, they're technically off, so that's kind of annoying. So let's see. I guess I can just set a margin on this. So no, I can't. I got to take the SVG inside. So let's take the button left SVG, which normally I'd probably put a class on this, because the way CSS works is it actually looks up this first, which means it looks at every SVG on the page, and then it looks at the next thing. So that's why I don't typically put like a star or something like that, because it's literally going to first look at every single thing on your page, then it's going to look here, and then it'll keep going down the chain. And so you want to be as specific as possible. And so anyhow, that's just a note here. Let's see. What if we set, let's just try this first. Let's do a margin right. And this is going to be so hacked, but let's do like 4 pixels. Did that move it at all? Yeah. So that looks about right. So let's just move this down. We'll do the same thing here. So this is called right. And this was margin left 4 pixels. There we go, like nothing ever happened. Okay, cool. Well, we've got those set. Let's see, this was what we needed to do, a width of 100% on, I think he said. Well, now that we switched to those larger images anyhow, it didn't really change anything there, but maybe we come back in here. And this was thumbnail one, maybe? No. Thumbnails, 2 thumbnail, okay. So, like this. Thumbnail. It's still not working. I don't know. There's nothing that should be that difficult. But since we got this working, I don't want to take forever figuring that out. We can come back. There's going to be so much stuff we're going to need to refactor and make better. So let's see. We don't have any JavaScript files yet, right? So let's come in here and let's call this slider.js. And I'm just going to console.log. Hey, slider. And then let's come over here. And I typically like to link these. Let's see, I don't really need this up here. Up top. And you want to do it to where your CSS is the last thing, because that is blocking. And then we'll say slider.js. And then we will set this as a type of module. And by doing this, not only does it allow us to do imports and stuff like that, but also it will make it automatically defer to load till after the body, so that we can reference things on the page. So let's go ahead and do this and make sure we got height slider. We do. So let's grab, first of all, and by being a module here, we can declare these kind of global things on this JavaScript file, and it won't bleed over to other things, other JavaScript files. So let's say const buttons, or let's see, yeah, button works, equals document dot query selector. And we're looking for anything with the class of button. And then what we're going to do is say, I don't know if we're going to need to reference those later, so we'll just say buttons dot add, no, buttons dot for each. And then we're going to, each button here, we'll do button dot add event listener. And we're listening for a click. And when that happens, we're going to pass it to something called handle button click. All right. Let's write that. So function handle button click, and it's going to take in a button. And then let's go ahead and just console log the button. So if I click here, buttons.forEach is not a function. This needs to be query selector all. Hey, thanks, Twin Concepts Design. I am feeling 100% better. Well, as normal as I am, that's how I'm feeling. So let's see, pointer event's true. So here's what we're looking at. What I just want to see is, let's do the button dot, or see, we're getting the event. I'm not sure what I'm calling this button. So we'll do e dot target. And I just want to make sure, we may need to see, so you see what's happening there is when we click, sometimes we're clicking on the SVG and sometimes we're clicking on the button. So what I want to do is, that's the difference between e dot target and e dot current target. So if I came in here and said current target, let's see, that's not right. Current target, I think, like that, and then e dot target. So here's the difference between these two. If I click here, you're going to notice if I click over on the side, it's the same thing. Whereas if I click on the SVG, it's actually giving me the path that I'm clicking on and the button. And the path is this e.target. So the e.target is always the thing you clicked on, and the e.current target is the thing that the event listener was set against, which is the actual button itself. So I want to make sure I use e.current target in here. The other thing you can do is you can set pointer events to none on the SVG, so you cannot click on it, and then you can use either, and it's the same either way. But let's go ahead and just use e.current target. And then let's go ahead and add, I think probably the easiest thing would be to add an ID on here. So we'll do ID of left, and then this will be ID of right, or maybe we should call this next, and this prev. And then let's come in here and just say we need the .id. So this should say prev, and this should say next. All right, so we can basically decide which way to move everything based off of that. So let's say this, e.current target, let's do a little ternary. We'll say if that equals, let's pick one of those. Let's say right. If it equals right, then I'm going to pass, let's say move slider, or we're going to pass it right, or prev, next. I forget what I shouldn't have called it the other thing. All right, so next equals next. Otherwise, I'm going to push it and say move slider prev, like that. Okay, so then what we need to do is we need to write this function here. So we'll say function move slider. It's going to take in a direction, and then all we need to do is grab the actual slider itself. So that would be this whole thing, which was called slider, I think. So document dot, let's see, const slider. Actually, let's declare this up top. Slider is equal to document dot query selector, and that was just slides. Slider. All right, so we've got our slider, and then what we're going to do is say slider dot, let's see, now what I want to know is what the current slide is at any time. So let's set a variable up here called current index. We're going to set it equal to 0 to start with. Let me think through this. Okay, so we're going to set this thing to, we're going to set it to 0, and then every time we click one way or the other, we can move it. So actually, let's set this to 1. Say it's on the first slide, and that way we can multiply times it. Move over. Now let's just set it to 0. So what we're going to do is basically, as we click, we're going to check what the current index is, and I need to set this to a let. And then we're going to update that inside the move slider. So we're going to, first of all, let's just worry about normal moving, and then we'll worry about the kind of the endpoints, depending on what happens there. So we'll say move slides, and we're going to take the slider dot style dot, let's see, dot style dot transform, right? And we're going to set the translate x to a calculation here of current index. Let's see, current index. Do I need to, I don't need this in quotation marks, do I? Oh, I guess I need percentage, so I do. So we'll do percentage here. Current index times, right, times its width. Now let's see, it's the full width of the screen for this slider, because these buttons are going to disappear. So I guess I can just say the window width. Let's see, can I do that? I think so. Let's go ahead and let's do this. Let's say const, let's comment this out so it doesn't yell at us, width, and that will be equal to slider. Now let's see, window dot, let's just grab the window first. I forget what it's called, so actually I can just come in here and type window. Let's zoom in. And if you do see something that you're like, hey, why don't you do this or whatever, that's what these times are for. So what am I looking for? Width something. I don't remember what it's called. There's like a bounding rect too. Resize, outer height, outer width. Yeah, that looks right because that's 320. Let's call that. What is Let's see. Let's just make sure. Let's see, outer width. And let's outer width, window width, read-only property outside of the browser window. It represents the whole, including sidebar. I don't want that. How about inner width? Inner width, pixels, vertical scroll bar includes the vertical scroll bar if one is present. Inner width returns inner height. That's not what I want. Client width. I think this is it. All right. Email property, inline elements. No CSS, otherwise inner pixels. Includes margin, but and vertical scroll bars if present. Let's do this on the actual. Yeah, let's just do this on. So we'll say const width, which I don't know why I deleted that, will be slider dot client width. And then let's see what this gives us. So it should be 320, I think. So if I click on this, oops, I need to pull this up. Client width is not a function. I just forget. It's been a little while since I've done this kind of thing. Oops. Inner width? Yeah, you're probably right. Inner. Oh, you know what? This is not a method. It's the property. Let's do inner width. Oh, come on. What is this thing called? Get width of element JavaScript. Width, height. Let's see. MDM dimensions of elements. Inner width. Is it just lowercase? Click. Let's just return. Let's console log this and see. Oh, now it's not doing anything. This should console log. Let's get rid of this. Oh, it's because I I had a filter on. All right, let's try again. We click. Okay, let's do inner width. Undefined. Let's do client width. Client width. Hey, okay, so we had it right. I just had a filter on. All right. Stuff. So we're going to take the inner width of the slider, which should always stay the same, or the client width of the slider, and we're going to multiply it times the current index. So let's just do this. Let's say that times the current, let's see, current index should be our width, and then we can just pass that in here, and then add a percentage sign on the end of it like this. All right, that was way too hard. Click this translate X. Let's see, translate. It's translate X, isn't it? Transform. Translate. What if I just translate? Let's write it in here so we can see what it is. Translate. Transform. Translate X. Is that what I had? Is not defined at move slider. Maybe it's like this, and then you set it. Oh, come on. Some days are just like this. Translate JavaScript. Transfer translate. Oh, somehow it's trying to get me to unlock passwords. Okay. Let's come all the way back here. Style.transform. I thought I did all that. Oh, you know what? I think I just didn't wrap it, and the whole thing has to be in quotation marks, like this. Okay. So it's doing something. That's something. So the whole thing is moving, and the slider, is that what I want to move? Yeah. Slide container. These should be relative to the slide container. let's see. Let's actually take this overflow off so we can see what's going on. This should not be taking this long. Okay, and then, so we've got all these here, so it should be this one next. So if I click here, let's see what's happened to the rest of that. Let's zoom out. Okay, so I've got this here. It's transformed that translate the whole thing 100% over. Let's do 100% like this. So what I need is basically that plus 1, I think, right, to actually move it. Translate X. So this needs to be current index, and we'll do plus 1, like this. All right, let's zoom back into a reasonable amount. All right, so if I click here, it did something. I'll move the whole container out, because that's the entire width of it, the slider with all of its children. So what I actually want is the width of, okay, what I actually want is the width of the parent, which is slider container. All right, slider container. Does that make sense, hopefully? Container. Slider container. Back here. All right, and then what I want is slider container dot client width, I think. Oh, come on. Let's get this first. I'm just going to get console.log the slider container.client width. So I'll grab that. And, oh, let's see, I got to move this up. $425, which is what I'm set at. So if I move it over, let's get rid of all this. Let's go ahead and console log this. Console.log the width. When I click, that should be the same. So it is saying 425, but it's all the way over this way. So it's that percentage. So 425 pixels. Is that right? Okay, so it's just moving it the wrong way. All right, because we haven't set a direction. All right, after all that. So what we're going to do is going to check the direction. So if dir equals next, then what we're going to do, let's go ahead and grab the client width either way. And then what we're going to say is if it equals next, we want to do this, except we want to say minus. So we'll say, let's see, minus that many pixels. So if we go next, it should work. Let's comment that out. Okay, so there we go. So it does move that way. So I think all we've got now is a problem with the position of these buttons in the DOM, because yeah, they're still there. Okay. All right. That should not have been that hard, but it happens. So let's come up here and let's add a Z index of 5 or something like that, so it'll stay on top. Now we should be able to click here. Can I still click on these? Click, click. Oh, you know what? We never updated the current index. Okay, so now we're going to say current index plus plus. Should increment it by 1, and then we'll say else, and down here we're going to put this in here, and then we'll say current index minus minus. It means we should be able to go click over this way. Now it doesn't know what to do, but that's okay. And then we'll come back the other way like that. All right, so now what we need to do is lastly, we need to check basically if it's the last or the first in the slider's children. So let's see, they all have a class of slide on them. So let's go ahead, current index, we're good there, slider. Let's copy this down, we'll say slide. And this is all. What we're going to do is grab all the slides. And then what we're going to do is check which index it's in that array. So let's actually do this. Let's make it rather than a node list, let's actually make it an array, which we can just wrap and put the spread operator, and this will actually give us an array of DOM elements. Okay, so we've got the slide set up. Now what we're going to do is check the current index versus that. So now what we need to say is current, let's see, we could do if statements. Let's just do little if statements here. Now, what if we did a switch statement? So we'll say switch, and we're doing a switch statement. And basically what you can do is pass multiple things to this switch statement, and it will tell you, let's see, I'm trying to remember the exact syntax, switch MDN. It'll basically tell you, you can kind of go through a list of them. It's like if statements. Yeah, here it is. Okay, so I was right. And what we're going to take in is the current index. This is after we've moved it. We're going to take the current index and we're going to now basically ask which index it is. And there's three we'd care about. If it's the first in the list, if it's the last in the list, or if it's anything in between, that'll be default. So it's really, what we're going to do is something very similar to this. So we're going to say case, if it is 0, so if it's now 0 after we've collect, we know it's the very first, and there's a couple things we'll need to do. So we're first going to need to remove the left arrow, and then I guess that's it, right? So then case last, which would be the slide dot length -1. There's an actual @ property, I think, coming in soon to the spec, which will be really nice. And here, let's see, we're going to remove right. And then for everything else, we're just going to basically just break. We don't really need anything. And then we do need breaks after each of these. So what we're doing is we're passing in something and saying, hey, kind of think about it like a, like an actual switch board where you're basically deciding where to send the current index or what to do with it. So if it equals 0, then what I want to do is say document.querySelector. Let's say actually what we should do is we need to add both back in just in case every time. So yeah, let's do that. So actually let's grab the buttons. Let's just do this. Let's do the button right. They had an ID on them, right? Yeah, next and previous. So we'll say this document.querySelector, and this is prev, and we're going to say dot, or let's see, dot style dot hidden, right? No, display equals none. Let's try it. That should be right. But we're going to actually need to start with that at none. Okay, so that's the other thing. So let's come over here. We're going to start with this. Actually, let's just toggle a class hidden. Do we have a hidden? No. Okay, so let's add that. Miscellaneous. Let's add it under miscellaneous. So we're going to say we've got a hidden class, and whatever that's on, it'll be display of none. So what we'll do is just toggle that, or add it. So we'll say dot class list dot add, and we're going to add the class of hidden. And then we're actually going to start with this on the left button, like this. Hidden, hello. The array length. Oh, for the switch statement. So it's 0 indexed, which is the same as our current index. So the array.length is going to be, I think, one more, right? 0 length -1. Yeah, so we need one less to actually hit the right thing, I think. We'll look at that in a second if that's wrong. All right, so let's come back over here. What am I doing wrong? So hidden class is display of none. Let's set hidden here. So the whole thing's gone. So why isn't it working on the button? Class of hidden. We got problems? No problems. So let's just do this for now then, just to see what's going on. I'll come down here and just say display of none. Okay, so that works. Button left SVG. Well, that's really weird. Hidden. It should disappear. Okay, well, I don't know why that's not working. Let's open this back up. And I don't know. That doesn't seem like I'm doing anything wrong, but maybe I am. Cursor pointer. Okay, so we're at least getting that now. Okay, well, let's come back over here. And we're going to add the class of hidden on that one. And on here, we're going to take the next one. So, and then just so you can see what this does, let's say console.log slide length. Let's actually grab all of this. Let me just move this. Let's see. I guess let's move it here at the very top. We'll just do console log. We'll do the slide length, and then we'll do the current index. So let's open this up just so you can see what this looks like and make sure we're on the right one. So that's slide length is 3, even though there's 4 images, and we're on 0 index. Now we're on 1. Oh, you know what? Maybe because we're starting on basically 0. Oh, I'm console logging before. So now we're on 1. Now we're on 1. Now we're on 2. Now we're on 3, which we were on 3 basically before we clicked because the way we console log this. We should do this afterwards just to make it a little clearer because this is where we're doing the check. So right now we're on 0. I click, and now we're on 1 with the array length of 3. Now we're on 3. Now we're on 3 of 3. So it's 0, 1, 2, 3, which is why we need length minus 1. Hopefully that makes sense. All right, let's come back down here, and then let's look at, let's just grab the button if it has a class of button. Actually, we've got our buttons already. So we'll just say buttons.for each button. We want to add a button.classlist.add or .remove. Remove hidden. All right, so basically whenever we click, it should be checking to see if it's the last one. Now, why is this not working? Break, case, break, default. All right. Well, this is not a day for fast coding, clearly. I got my button left. Got my class of hidden over this way. Class display none. That's what I want. Is my CSS file messed up somehow? No. Okay, so let's come back over here. If I add it here, it works and it gets rid of the whole thing. If I add it down here, it's not working. I have no idea what I'm doing. Well, either way, it should basically get to the end and stop that. So I'm not sure exactly what's going on, but it should allow us to basically keep kind of moving around back and forth to both sides. Let's put it on the right and see what happens. Let's put it on this whole slider. That whole thing disappears. So it doesn't like the buttons, and I have no idea why. What am I doing wrong? Well, if you see, let me know. I'm not sure what's going on. These are the kinds of things that just trip you up, and they can take up tons of time. And if you come back, you usually see them right away, so let's forget about it. Unless you see something, in which case you can let me know. Okay, so we've got the basics of this working, where we move this like this. We should be able to go back the other way. ID prev, let's check that slider, because that must be the problem. It must actually be the JavaScript somehow. So next, and I'm moving slider next, otherwise I'm moving slider previous. So next, if it equals next, then I'm incrementing it and I'm moving the right way. Else, slider, see that's lowercase, Okay, let's do this. Make sure I'm getting the thing I'm expecting. Next. Next. Prev. Okay, so I think I know what's going on here. I'm setting this width. Oh, Chris. Okay, so I'm multiplying it times the current index plus 1, which if I just start this at, let's start this at 1. Let's take the current index. We're going to say I need this width times current index. Okay, so what we need is the current index times. So if it's like 420, it's times 2 plus whatever the current index is. Nope, the width is always going to be the same. What I need to change is down here. Okay. All right, so let's take the width here. This is in pixels. I do want this to be percentages, so I can just move it. And what I want is the slider container times 0. So the first thing we're going to do is increment or decrement. And what I don't want is the current. What I want, I need all this basically inside this logic. Right? So now I need to know it started at 0. Let's start it at 0. If I click the right button, it's going to first calculate the slider container current width. So let's do this. Let's set this up here. So const width equals that. And then we can just change this here to width. We're going to say width times whatever the current index is. If it's now 1, I'm going to move it, translate it that much over. I don't want width at all. I want 100%. Okay. So what I want, all I need is current, and it's 100% times that. So if it's 0, it's going to move it 0. If it's 1, it's going to use 1. Okay. That's all I need. I don't need the width at all. So all that work we did for no reason. Sorry, my brain just clearly wasn't working. We should be able to click. Let's wait till we do it. 100 times. So 100% times 0 moves it none. But I've just incremented that. So now I should be able to click, and it moves to the next. And then I should be able to click here. Okay, so let's just console log so we can figure out what's going on. So let's console log here, current index 1. Let's see, why is it refreshing on me? 1, 2, 3, 4, because there shouldn't be any left. Prev 3. Okay, so 100% times 1, 0 is 0. That's where we're at now. 100% times, let's see, 1 should move it over 100%. Is that right? Times 2 should move over 200%. Times 3 should move over 300%. Now if I click here, it should be times 2, which means I should translate it over 100 times 2%, which should be there. This slider should not be taking this long. Okay, let's put this back on, or I thought I had it on. Let's zoom back out. All right, let's try again. So I move this way. Where's my overflow? Let's do overflow X. Scroll. Okay, Chris. So here's what we got. Where's my button? Where's this button? All the way over here. Oh, well, now the client width is massive. That's right, because we moved it over. Or because I'm all zoomed out. Let's zoom back in. Oh, this is painful. I'm not sure what's going on, so we're not going to worry about this for now. This should not be this difficult, but some days are just like this. And today, evidently, is one of those days you just get to watch me go through it. So maybe this is encouraging to you. All right, so we got that set. I'm just going to leave all that stuff alone for now since I can't figure out what's going on. it shouldn't be this difficult. You should be able to just click, and I should be able to click back. Because I'm basically going to be dragging the whole thing, so it should be this way. All right, well, let's do a quick fix for now. Instead of sliding it and translating it and all this kind of stuff, let's just let's leave it alone. All right, because this is not a hard fix, and since I'm clearly not able to figure this out at this moment, or I'm just wasting your time and mine. So let's come back here and let's worry about, say we've got the cart we said we were going to work on. That should not be that hard, but that's what I just said. So it's the same size. I mean, it's going to be hard to add stuff to the cart and all that kind of stuff, but it shouldn't be that hard to get this kind of going. We can't really do the cart, though, I guess, until we have the nav bar. So the nav bar, we can do it up in a couple different ways. We can make it to where it's one nav bar, and we don't ever hide anything or anything like that. I think probably the easier thing to do will be to actually make a mobile nav bar and then also make a desktop nav bar. And there's just a lot of things you have to worry about when it comes to accessibility. But let's go ahead and do that. And let's come up here above the main. Yeah, thanks to Toying Concepts. It does happen. I wish it didn't. So let's see, we got our nav bar and we got our 3 sections here. We've got the little hamburger, sneakers, cart, and then the logo. So these obviously need to be stacked next to each other. So do these. So we'll do justify content space between on those. So let's do that. So we've got we're going to set that as a button. And here we need to set an Aria label on here, and we'll call it open mobile menu. And then we should probably also see Aria expanded equals false, telling it that basically it controls something else and that it's currently not expanded. And before we do too much, let's go ahead and I'm going to add, let's see, added a very poor mobile image slider that only took like 1 hour. Okay. All right, let's come back here and let's add these 2 things, and then we probably need to go, let's see, logo, cart, close. I think this close thing might be what we're looking for. Maybe. Image avatar. I'm not sure what they are. Let's come in here and see. So let's add this. What shows up? An X. Not what we want. Next, mine is menu. There we go. So we've got our menu here. Let's come back into here. Get rid of that button. Okay, so we're going to come here, add that. It shows up top there. That's good. And then, let's see, we're going to want to wrap this in a div. So let's do wrap. And we'll do a div with a class of flex and then gap of like maybe 3, 4, 2, something small. Because the next thing we're going to want to add is our logo, which is down here. So let's copy that out. And by adding them in line here, you're not making them like have to fetch all those. So that's why we're doing it that way. I do want this in href, and we'll just do it for the home directory. And we probably do need to also add some kind of Aria label on here. So let's do that. Where's this? Right here. So Aria label. We'll call this like go to homepage. In this case, there's only one page anyhow, but that's okay. So we've got image avatar and our cart left. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this. And let's expand this out. Let's see. We've got this div here. We're basically going to duplicate this again. So let's do that and just get rid of all this. Okay, so the first thing is our cart, which we're going to also want in a button because we want them to be able to interact with it. We'll give this an ID of cart. And then, let's see, for now, I think we can, well, we'll say expand Aria expanded equals false, expanded equals false, to say that it's not currently moving, you're moving back, hence age. I don't know that I follow you, but if you're saying I'm getting older, then I agree. All right, Aria expanded, and then Aria label. And here we want this to say like open cart. and then we'll set this inside here. Those Aria things are really easy to leave till way later, but I think it's important just to do that kind of stuff right away. It's not really a complete site if people can't access it, so as much as you can and as much as your knowledge allows for it, I think you should try to do that. So image avatar right away when you can. So I'm guessing this would honestly probably be another button as well, some kind of like mobile, like account menu or something like that. But I guess if it doesn't open something, if it goes to another page, it would be a link. So let's just do that. So we'll say like account or something like that. Although for now, let's just do a pound sign. And here we'll say Aria Label. We're going to call this go to account. And then we're going to add an image in here. And it will be, oh, not that. Let's see, images and avatar. Like that. Person, I don't know. We already have an Aria label on here, so I don't need to actually have this image show. So I'll do Aria hidden equals true because it's just inside a link. All right, so we've got that. We've got that. Let's go over here. Is there anything else we need to worry about? Not really. It's just all lined up. And I guess we'd have this little button thing. We can do like a little pill-shaped thing after we get some of this set up. So let's see. Let's give this an ID of account. And then let's give this button ID of cart. It's got that already. Let's see. I typically like to have classes. So we'll do class of cart for styling, and then we can interact with the ID in the JavaScript. So class here will be account as well. And then come back up this way, and this will be a class of, let's just call this logo. And I guess we don't really need to access that in JavaScript at all, so we can leave that alone. Let's see, this SVG should be a class. Let's see, this should be, that's not quite right. This should be inside the button, like this, the button. And all of this should be inside here. And we've already got all that stuff on, but I do need a class of mobile menu on that. And then we've got a button tag probably hanging out down here somewhere. Maybe it deleted it for us. Hey, thanks. I really needed that today. Okay, so we got both of those set. Oops. And okay, so we're good to go. Let's go ahead and start styling these. Mobile menu. That's also what I'm going to want the ID to read. Okay, got this over here. Let's pull this here, and let's come up top here. Let's do Nav Section. And what we'll do is we're going to grab the nav here, and we'll say this needs, let's see, should we have a padding on the children? Negative percentage when moving left. I thought I did that. Those are the kinds of things when you go back, you're like, why was this hard? I just forgot a minus sign or whatever, so we can go look at that if we have some time here. So I'm going to say display a flex here, and then justify items center, and then justify content space between, and that will basically force the two things to the side. And then I want to grab, let's see, I guess what we need on both of these, let's see, we already have a gap 2 on them. So we don't need a whole lot more on that, I guess. But if I come in here and say modal menu, mobile menu is what that's supposed to say, menu. So let's change this here and here. And then here, let's just do like a padding. And we're going to do our var sizer 1-ish. And that should give us some space around that button, wherever that's at. Maybe it should be like 2, something like that. And then, see, why is this thing so massive? Did I tell it to be that big? Margin 0. No, I didn't tell. Oh, it's just the image. So let's go ahead and fix the image now. So that was a count. We'll say width of var sizer 2 maybe. Okay, so something like that. Let's see, maybe it's actually a little bit smaller. It looks like it's smaller than the, yeah. And that spacing is probably a little bit too big. So we're going to come into both of these and change them to gap of 1. Make them a little bit better. All right. And this spacing is too big. Sizer 1 around that maybe. No. Let's just set that manually then. We'll do 15 pixels all the way around. And then let's see, our home page count was that. What do we call our home page? Just home logo. Let's see. This is all the way over this way. So let's see, maybe we shouldn't set a padding on this at all. Let's just set a padding on all of this. So we'll go var, see padding, var, and here's where we can use our sizer 1 because that should be the same as the outsides here, which is what we'd want to line up. All right, and then here, that is probably too big. So let's grab both of those again and let's just get rid of them. So this gap 1, get rid of both of those, and we're going to call this mobile, let's see, menu. Let's call it Nav Section. Okay, and then I'm going to come in here, grab my Nav Section. They're already flexed, and I'm going to say gap. We'll do like 15 pixels, 10 pixels, something like that. We'll figure that out in a second if that's not big enough. All right, so we've got those set. That's good, and that's where it should be. Everything should be vertically aligned. All right, so now we can actually determine kind of how to set up the sidebar. Maybe let's do that next. So we're gonna have the sidebar over this way off to the left, and then when we click this, we'd want it to slide in. And let's see if they show you anything else. So it just covers everything, and that X replaces it. So this is what we need to lay out now, and it's gonna also have this dark area. And I think what you should do is we should make it to where when we click on this dark, it closes it as well, maybe? I mean, I think I would expect that to move it over this way. So I think that's what we're going to do. So let's come up here. It's hard with this so zoomed in. I'm going to zoom out just a touch. Let's see, inside the nav, I think what we're going to do is just take, let's put this inside a div. We're going to call this mobile nav, let's see, nav panel, maybe. I should probably give some more thoughts exactly how we should style this. So let's call this, what classes we should give this. Let's call this mobile panel container, and that will have a position relative on it. And then we're going to have inside here a UL. No, I think I just want this to be a nav panel like this. And then inside here, we're going to have a UL, and this will have a class of nav. See, this isn't correct. Let's do this. Let's change both of these here to underscores. Oops. Like that. Nav panel. And this will be nav panel link container. And then inside here, we're going to have LIs with a nav link like that. And then inside them will be a link. Let's see where. Yeah, they can just click on those. Okay, so we've got several things we need to stack up here. So collections, men, women, children, about. I think those are at the bottom of the page. Let's grab those. Let's get rid of all that. Come back up top. Okay. So we've got collections in here. And obviously that would actually need to go to collections page. For now, we're going to leave it alone. And then for each of these, let's grab men. And then, come on, women. And about. And contact. Now, I think, if I remember correctly, these should have a roll of none on them. Roll of none. And then this should have a role of, let's see, navigation, I think. So this will be our main navigation. Let's see, how's that going to interact with the nav element though? Because this should be navigation too. I need to look into that. If you know how to do that offhand, I'd have to look it up to see exactly what kind of the best practice is. But we've got those stacked up properly, which is what we want. And then above all this, in the nav panel, let's see, the nav container. Now, the nav panel would be our button with a class of close, and we'll do same thing, or ID and a class of close, both. And this will have that SVG of close in it, icon close. Let's drop that in there. Close the sidebar. Let me zoom in a touch more. So we've got our button that's showing up there, all of these images. I think that should be everything. Okay, so now it's just up to styling. So we've got our Nav Section logo. We never used any of those. Let's come down here. We're going to say Nav Panel Container. And let's see, right now, I'm going to eventually want it basically to have that dark color. So this right here. So what we're going to do is background. See, background color. We'll do, I don't think we have a var for that. So let's just do RGB, or not RGB, HSL. Give ourselves a little bit more room here. And you can do whatever here, because we're going to do like 3%, something like that. And then we'll do 0.1 maybe on the alpha channel. That's probably not quite dark enough. 0.4, 6, something like that. All right, and then this is going to be a position of fixed, I think is what we'll do. And we'll set this to inset of 0. So it should be over everything now. So we'll do Z index like 10. That makes it over the top of everything, which is what we want. And now you shouldn't be able to interact with anything, which is good. And then we'll move it over here in a second. So nav, let's see, panel, I think. Here we're going to do position. I guess it doesn't need to be fixed or relative or anything like that. We can just do max width of like 60%. Or maybe we actually need to set the width, I guess, 60%. And then we'll have background color here of our var background. And then we'll set the height to 100% of the parent, which means it'll stretch all the way down. And then we probably do want some padding on this. So we'll do our var space sizer 1. That looks pretty close. Okay, so now let's take our, let's see, our close button maybe, and let's grab whatever else we need, and we can shut down this panel. I can't see anything. Let's grab Nav Line Container, and then Nav Links, and then we're going to need the A tags inside of that, but I think what we'll do is just reference them like I said I don't normally do, just for sake of time here. So Nav Link. And then, see, we've also got our Nav Link Container. Okay, so we got those. So let's do our Nav Link Container. We'll do list style of none to start with. And then, see, margin 0. What's on the left there? The padding margin. Oh, you know what? I think that might be the UL, which is the Nav Link Container, isn't it? Margin 0. Padding 0. Yeah, it was padding. Okay. So we got that. We do want to set this as a grid, and then gap of var. Yeah, the primary navigation or main navigation. I think you do. Yeah, you're right. You don't need commas anymore in HSL. That's just my practice. So I still do it when I don't think about it. With the primary navigation role or main navigation, I think you only need to name it that if you have a secondary nav. And since we don't, I don't think we have to, but it doesn't hurt, I don't think. Let's see, where are we at with this? This just needs to be, gap is a class I can just set on this, I think. So we'll do gap of 2, gap of 1. See how far they space out. That's about right. Okay, and then I've got my nav links. I don't really need to do anything with those directly, but I do need the children. So we're going to set text decoration to none, and then font weight to bold, and then font color to var of the dark something. Alternate. What do we name those? So probably text. Okay, so text. Font color. Color. All right, so that looks good. We just need to get a little spacing up top here. So let's see, we could do a couple different things. We could just do padding, but let's see. Maybe we should just make these, wrap these in a container together, which would be the nav panel they're already in. But inside of that, here, let's wrap these, and we'll say grid, and then gap of 4. And that should space them out. And that looks about right. Yeah. Okay, so let's do this. Rather than create an extra class or something like that, so I don't think we need this. Let's leave this primary navigation role or main navigation. Oh, you're just saying to name it that? Yeah. Okay, let's do this. Let's take nav panel. We've got our button. So let's grab this nav panel container, and we should be able to say this. Close, we don't need to do anything with that since it seemed to already be set up for us. Nav panel container. Let's do this transform, translate x negative, let's see, negative 100%. So it should be gone. I should be able to click stuff, okay? And then what we can do is just translate this back the other way. And technically, I think you should translate, let's see, translate 3D, 0, negative 100%, and 0, because it engages the graphic core. So I think typically when you should use translate 3D. Let's just move it back for ease of explanation, if that doesn't make sense, and we can talk about that at a different time. So let's do this. Let's work on getting the panel to slide out, and then we're going to call it a day today since, these things just take time. So I think I didn't really listen back through last time, but I think I end up just apologizing a lot for it taking a while. But honestly, that's how it is. So let's see, close. So I'm going to try not to apologize. How's that sound? Let's add another one here, and we'll call this nav.js. And what I'd like to do is just, let's have all these in a folder, and we'll call this src. Should I really worry about folder structure right now? Probably not, but eventually if you were to build it out. So maybe let's just call this JS and drop both of these in here, and we can worry about actual folder structure for a build later if that's important. Let's see, JS up here. And now this should yell at me. But let's call this main.js, and then add another one here called main.js. And then here we're going to import, let's see, we need some exports here. We've got our function slider. So let's export this, and then export this. So we've got move slider, handle button click. Let's see, I'm wasting a lot of time setting this up. Let's do this, undo, move. No, let's not. I'm going to do it, but let's go back here. Let's just do this for now. And we'll go nav, and then these are both in a directory called, let's see, JS, slider nav. Okay. We can worry about this stuff later. Close the sidebar, slider's good, nav. Okay, so let's come in here and let's grab the close button. Let's call this close menu button. And here it's document.query selector. We're going to grab the ID of close, which probably isn't a great ID. Let's do close menu and change that up. Close menu. And then let's see what else we need. We also need this, which had menu, mobile menu. let's see, mobile menu. Well, let's change both of these, or at least this one, to open menu. And we've got that. Close that down. And we're going to change this to open menu, like that. So we should have both of those. So we'll say open menu button dot add event listener. Whenever we click on that, we're going to pass it a toggle menu, like that. Function toggle menu. And then inside here, we're going to look at the menu itself. And that was called something. Nav Line Container. Nope. Nav Panel Container. So const mobile panel equals that. Actually, let's just copy this down. And we'll come in here. And I think this was a class. Oh, come on. Saving time with keyboard shortcuts when you're not typing it correctly. Let's call it Nav Panel Container. Okay, so what I need to do is Nav Panel Container. Let's do this. Class list dot toggle. And what I want to toggle is a class. So let's remove this. So we'll say Nav. Let's just copy this down and say Nav Panel Container when we add a class of expanded. Then we will translate this to 0%. Otherwise, it will be the -100 that I should have left there in the first place. Okay, so we're good there. Now what we need to do is come over here and toggle the class expanded on that. So whenever we click this, it expands. Cool. All right. And then let's do the same thing for the close button. This is how long it should have taken for the slider, so I'm not sure what's going on. Close menu. So click here, close menu button, toggle expanded, whether or not it's on. Okay, let's try this again. Cannot properties, add event listener, close menu button, close menu. Is not what it is? Oh, that's a class I changed. So this can be close again, which we never actually used that, so let's just get rid of that. Okay, click, click, hey. So let's do a couple things real quick. Let's first of all add a transition here. So we'll say transition, we'll say on the transform, transition, on the transform, we'll do like 250 milliseconds, and then let's just do ease for now. And then now, should be able to slide that. Oh, the whole thing slides weirdly. Let's not do that. It needs to be snappy anyhow, so that should work. You'd also want to change tab index. Well, I guess it's mobile, so we shouldn't have to worry about that. What was the other thing I was going to do? We've got that. It's toggling back and forth. Expanded. Is there anything else I really need? I don't think so. Oh, thanks for the call on the ID. Sorry, I didn't see that. your comment first, Twin Concepts. Okay, so we're going to call that good enough for now. This evidently was just a problem with the direction I was putting the slider, that I wasn't doing -100%. Let's see. So it should move this way. That's still not quite correct, because what I want is to calculate this translate based off the last one. So if it's at like -300%, then I want it to be at like -200% next time if I go back. Oh, okay. Well, that was a dumb error. But I promised we'd be done-ish now, so I need to finish up. So you click here, this opens. Cart, we'd eventually need to add that. This should take you here. This should take you to a fake page. All this shows, this button we haven't done anything with, but we got most of the basic mobile layout done. That took way too long for those 2 hours, but between messing this stuff up a bunch and everything, sometimes it just takes some time. If you weren't here at the beginning, I did mention I've got a couple of videos coming out. I've got this one on this watch face where you can set up your own. These are custom built SVGs we're going to build from scratch. And you can see here, it's almost midnight also in Berlin, Twin Concepts. So there you go. Our guest just passed. So anyhow, you can set all this stuff up. And then Next, we've got this on calendar events. We're actually fetching this live from a Google Calendar, and you can see that you can just add extra events if you want to show more, and you can also do it in dark mode, and dark mode looks great too. And we're going to set this up with Tailwind, and this is a netlify function. I might do like a Vercel function or something like that since I've already done netlify before, but you've got this all set up like this. You can drag this to show more or less events. There's these little expanding detail buttons, and all this is generated, the date, the time, all this kind of stuff. So that's coming up in the next couple of weeks, and this comes out Tuesday, I think. So anyhow, I hope those look enjoyable for you, and hopefully next time we do this, we can move a little bit faster. But again, I think this is probably a more realistic speed at which these kinds of things go. And a lot of times just taking a break and coming back makes them a lot better in the long run anyhow. Well, again, thanks so much for watching. I hope this was enjoyable, and I will catch you next time. Happy coding.